Okay, hello everyone. I'm Rahel from the Department of English Education, University of Sebelas Maret. In this video, I'm going to discuss the topic about sex education and why is it important to talk about it. So, these are the key points that we are going to talk. That are introduction to the topic, commentary of the video, and about the audience perspective on the video. So, what is sex education? There are some people who still have an old-fashioned perspective that talking about sex is taboo, and sex education should not be taught to children and teenagers because it might encourage them to have casual sex or sex before marriage. Whereas, according to the European Expert Group on Sexuality Education on 2016, sex education does not mean to encourage children and adolescents to engage in sexual activity, but the aims of sex education is to help children and adolescents to grow and strengthen their ability to make uh, so what is sex education? There are some people who still have an old-fashioned perspective that talking about sex is taboo, and sex education should not be taught to children and teenagers because it might encourage them to have casual sex or sex before marriage. Whereas, according to the European Expert Group on Sexuality Education 2016, sex education does not mean to encourage children and adolescents to engage in sexual activity. The aim of sex education is to help children and adolescents to grow and strengthen their ability to make aware, fulfilling, healthy, and respectful choices about relationship, sexuality, and mental and physical health. So I have attached the link of the video on the description box, and this is the video where Dr. V. Chandramouli, who is an expert in adolescent sexual and reproductive health of the World Health Organization, discussed that in TED Talks why we should not shy away from sexual education. We can see from the video that there were many audiences who are men and women in their 20s to 50s. They looked genuinely paid to the speaker, and so did I, since the speaker is credible enough to bring up this topic, and the topic was also interesting to us. In this video, he underlined 5 points about the facts of sex education in our society. First, sex. According to him, sex education isn't just about teaching sex, yet teach reproduction and avoid problems. It will improve understanding and knowledge through the information given that it is appropriate to the age and to the age of development and circumstances. It also gives self-awareness and equitable norms, yet build social skills to make choices. Second, he said that sex education doesn't harm adolescents and children, and it has lots of benefits. It won't lead Sexual education won't lead and encourage to do an early sexual activity. Indeed, it can bring positive changes in sexual behavior and reduce disease outcomes. Third, he said that children and adolescents have rights and needs of sex education. Kids need to be taught about their gender to make her understand about themselves. As they will become teenagers, parents or schools need to be teach them about the changes that they will have when they become teenagers, so they will not be confused, panicked, shamed, or scared. Fourth, he said that we are failing them by not teaching them sex education. People may aware of sex education importance, but don't comfortable enough to talk about it or teach to their children or their teenagers. Sometimes they adult taught it in the wrong way, or adolescents confused about where they should talk to about their sexual problems. Lastly, he underlined that some countries are implementing a good quality and large scale of sex education programs at schools. The success key of this program is strong governmental leadership partnership with non-governmental organizations, universities, and also the key is the availability availability of adequate resources. Why uh, learn about sex education is important? So I have the same insight as to the speaker about sex education. I agree that sex education is important for children and adolescents because it makes us learn to know how our bodies work and the rights they have. Also, learn about reproductive health, improving communication, decision making, critical thinking skills of our sexual life. It also gives benefits of sexual harassment prevention in society. So, in sex education, children and adolescents must also be taught about when and how to say no to unwanted and improper touch because its sex education might be. That is, to fill up this information gap regarding regarding consent, body rights, and safety. And here we are going to talk about audience reaction to the video. The audience on the video seemed paid attention carefully to the speaker's lecture and gave applause to it, since what the speaker talked about is also relates to nowadays conditions, specifically in some countries like Indonesia. Meanwhile, how would the Indonesian audience react to this video? To know how, we need to learn about the current condition of sex education in Indonesia. So sex education in Indonesia are really limited. In schools, there's no formal curriculum on sex education in Indonesian schools. And also concerns sexuality and other gender-sensitive topics receive little and almost no attention. Parents and schools rarely talk to their children and students about sex education, so and they don't talk about sex education at all because some of them still think it is a taboo thing to talk about. And here is a research I found about Indonesian perspective towards sex education. So in this research, there was a total of 768 final responses for data analysis. There are parents who have children on elementary schools, junior high school, or high schools, and according to the research, there were no parents who felt that sex education should not be introduced at all. But in this research, parents who were participate is uh, parents who are educated enough and have graduate graduated degree, so it less relate to parents who maybe have traditional thoughts about sex education. And however, uh, this research on Indonesian parents' attitudes towards school-based sex education and when sex education should be taught. So the result is some parents who thinks that sex education should be taught starts when kindergarten until grade 3 are quite high, which is 41% of the final responses, and 39% of parents said that taught on it must be taught on children who are on grades 4 to 6, and as much as 18% of parents say that it must be taught starts when children are in junior high schools, and 2% of the parents think that it, sex education should be taught when children are in high school. And I have asked about this video to my friends. I asked her to give a perspective about the video that I have shared to her, and Tarisa said that she's agree with the things the speaker said in my video. She thinks that sex education is very important and needs to be taught. She don't think that sex education is glamorous or encourage teenagers to have casual sex because if they want to do it, they will do it, according to her. So Tarisa would rather them do it safely. Tarisa also agreed that sex ed not only teaches safe sex but also concern communication, etc. Like, so she's basically agree to what we are I discussed earlier, and she thinks teenagers need to learn these things from the right person because otherwise they're going to find it through porn And it's not good because most porn is unrealistic and sometimes they normalize abuse, rape, and other negative things. Well, I also agree with her perspective and specifically with her thoughts about sex education should be taught by the right person. Otherwise, children and adolescents will learn it from their friends or maybe porns. So it will not good for our generations. So I think it's all about my presentations. I apologize that there was a lack of communication and some topics that maybe offend your feelings. And I also thank you for your kind of attentions. See you on next discussions. Thank you.